Welcome to the Get Fit Guy's quick and dirty tips to slim down and shape up. My name is Ben Greenfield. I'm the Get Fit Guy, and today's episode is going to show you exactly how to train your body to burn more fat. And now let's jump into today's episode, which asks the age-old question: can you actually train, trick, or tip your body into some kind of enhanced fat-burning mode, sucking fat cells off your butt, thighs, and tummy more rapidly? Well, this topic came to the forefront of my attention recently when I noted a study that just came out entitled "Rethinking the Role of Fat Oxidation, Substrate Utilization During High-Intensity Interval Training in Well-Trained and Recreationally Trained Runners." Now, I know that's a mouthful, but the study itself wasn't too difficult to grasp. The goal of the researchers was to look into the degree to which the rate of fat oxidation could be altered by training. In other words, can your exercise choice or exercise history affect the rate at which you burn fat? Now, before we look into what the researchers discovered, allow me to make an important clarification. The title of this episode that you're listening into is not which diet causes you to burn more fat. Why? Because we already know the answer, and I've given the nitty-gritty details for that in my two-part article series called How to Turn Yourself into a Fat-Burning Machine. Now, I'll link to that article in the show notes over at quickanddirtytips.com for this episode number 254. But in it, I report on a University of Connecticut study that conclusively proved a high-fat, low-carbohydrate diet can increase fat oxidation from an average maximum of 1.0 grams per minute to over 1.7 grams per minute. But let's say that you're already not eating too many calories, you're also being careful with your carbohydrate intake, and you're not engaging in a diet rich in foods like processed starches, high fructose corn syrup, sugar, or other foods that cause frequent fluctuations in blood glucose or a decrease in fat oxidation. Could your training or a specific way of training also increase fat oxidation? So let's jump back into this study. In it, researchers compared fat and carb oxidation rates using something called indirect calorimetry, in which you breathe in and out of a mask that measures oxygen consumed and carbon dioxide produced to give you an approximation of your fuel use. Two different sets of subjects were measured while they exercised with high-intensity interval training. Set 1 was comprised of well-trained, seasoned runners, and Set 2 was comprised of slightly less well-trained recreational runners. The actual workout consisted of 6 4-minute-long running bouts separated by 2-minute recovery periods on a treadmill set at a 5% incline. Well, the researchers found that despite similar ratings of perceived exertion, blood lactic acid levels, and carbohydrate burning rates, the well-trained runners performed much better on the workout. No surprises there. But they also had a nearly threefold higher rate in fat oxidation. So not only were they burning more calories overall, but they were burning an enormously higher percentage of those calories from fat. Now, believe it or not, this is actually news. Increased fat utilization during exercise is a well-known adaptation to exercise training, particularly endurance training like running. But prior to this point, it was thought you couldn't burn large amounts of fat while exercising at high intensities. It turns out this simply isn't the case. And in this study, runners exercising at over 85% of their maximum intensity still experienced fat oxidation contribution to nearly a third of their total energy expenditure. So in other words, A, you don't have to exercise in your fat burning zone to burn large amounts of fat, contrary to popular belief. And B, the more seasoned and consistent you are at exercise, especially endurance exercise, the higher amounts of both overall calories and also fat that you can burn even at higher intensities. Now, I realize that this seems like a broad, slightly non-specific recommendation to just tell you that you can train your body to burn more fat by including endurance exercise, but also by not limiting your exercise to low intensities and by being consistent with exercise. This all seems pretty intuitive, right? Well, I also want to give you a few other recommendations that will help to get your body to burn more fat, all while avoiding frequent fluctuations in blood sugar. And now, just a couple tips for you for enhancing your fat burning. Now, I do have a very comprehensive podcast in which I go into this in even more detail. It's called Simple Steps to Turning Yourself into a Fat Burning Machine. It's over an hour long, and I'll link to it over at quickanddirtytips.com in the show notes for this episode number 254. But here are some of my tips. Number 1, do one short aerobic workout as many mornings as possible a week, preferably in an overnight fasted state in which you haven't eaten for at least 12 hours. Number 2, avoid frequent snacking, which is going to limit fluctuations in blood glucose. Number 3, save all your carbohydrate intake for the end of the day, and up until that point, only eat high amounts of healthy fats and moderate amounts of proteins. Number 4, stay mildly physically active all day long, meaning standing workstations, breaks for jumping jacks, etc. Number 5, keep your metabolism elevated by exposing your body to frequent fluctuations in both cold temperatures and hot temperatures, such as cold showers or saunas. Number 6, include a threefold combination of endurance training, high-intensity interval training, and weight training in your exercise protocol, and exercise, if possible, every day, 365 days a year for 20 to 60 minutes. Now, as you can see, many of these strategies are somewhat lifestyle-based. For example, you could start off each day before having breakfast with 10 to 30 minutes of very light activity like yoga, walking the dog, doing yard chores, etc. You could take at least one cold shower a day. You could visit the sauna at least once a week. You can avoid non-nutrient-dense carbohydrates and save any carbohydrates for the end of the day and be as active as possible all day long. And then you can put the icing on the cake by alternating between one day of high-intensity cardio and one day of weight training. Once you step back and look at it, it's not too complex to keep your body in fat-burning mode all day long. But you may have more questions. So you can go over to facebook.com/getfitguy and join the conversation over there if you do. That's facebook.com/getfitguy. And until next time, I'm Ben Greenfield, the Get Fit Guy, asking you, what are you waiting for? Go get fit.